take it off. You're seeing millions of years back into the past.
Oh my god, it's hideous! Ah!
Like many people, Spider-Man is one of my favourite characters in all of media and my second favourite superhero next to Batman. Ever since I was a child, I've related to and looked up to this character. I've kept that same love throughout all of these years, and now that I'm an ageing, cynical adult man, I find that talking about this character brings me back to my adolescence days when life was just a little simpler. Growing up on the Sam Raimi trilogy was amazing. I had always loved Tobey Maguire's portrayal of Peter Parker, and Spider-Man was always the one hero that I wanted to be the most. This particular scene was the main reason why. As I grew up into my early teens, I absolutely devoured Spider-Man comics, some of which I don't have anymore because my mother decided to sell them because she thought I was too old for them. And some of them I still have to this day. I've watched the Raimi trilogy countless times in my life. I've seen the 2 Mark Webb movies quite a few times too, even though nowadays I know that they're both terrible, but anyways.
You're a fraud, Spider-Man!
I've obviously watched the MCU entries, and I was at the midnight screening for No Way Home too. I've also seen the Spider-Verse movies countless times over, twice each in theatres, and I consider both of them to be the top 2 comic book movies of all time. I used to watch the animated shows too, and I also have the UCS Daily Bugle and the No Way Home Final Battle Lego sets in my bedroom. I've even watched Spider-Man Lotus twice, but I guess that's not really much of a flex considering the director and most of the cast are racist arseholes, and they also shit on John Watts constantly. And of course I'm going to watch the new MCU animated series coming out on Disney+. You could say I'm something of a Spider-Man fanboy myself. So my thoughts on Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 are going to be completely biased and also my own opinion. So if you clicked on this video expecting me to just out and out trash this game, then you're in the wrong place. I don't know what to tell you. I've split this video into 2 distinct parts. I don't know how long it will be, but this is something that I've wanted to talk about in good length for quite a while now, and we finally got to that point. So let's start the video and let's begin talking about Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. New York City, the Big Apple, Earth number 1048. Home to not 1, but 2 Spider-Men, Peter Parker and Miles Morales. Like most students, Miles struggles to keep up with his college essay, and Peter gets a job as his first-class teacher, for which he turns up late after Spider-Manning in the city. Whilst class is about to begin, Miles notices a sandstorm kicking up outside. Miles and Peter's first interaction is just so goofy, man.
Bathroom?
Okay.
Miles diverts Peter away from his class lecture to show him the devastation that's happening outside. This is going to take basically both of them to handle. This serves as a fantastic reintroduction to our 2 heroes after the first game, who don their respective suits and swing into action to protect the city. This introduction is absolute fucking chaos. The player is immediately thrown into action and gets some quips from Peter. It's what you would expect from an introduction to this character.
Still angry after all these years, Marco? You should try yoga!
Peter and Miles end up beating Flint Marko, who clarifies that his outburst was not directed at them. Flint essentially tells Peter and Miles that they are the ones that are going to need help when a mysterious individual comes looking for them. It sets up a story that we know is actually going to have some real stakes at play.
Come for us.
We then cut to a flashback of 6 months ago, and we are introduced to the main antagonist of the game, Kraven the Hunter. Think Crocodile Dundee, but with less charm and more murder. This guy doesn't just hunt animals. He's after superhumans too, putting Miles and Peter at serious risk.
Light the fires. The great hunt begins.
After approximately 30 to 40 minutes of continuous noise, drama and action, the atmosphere finally becomes a little more tranquil. Peter returns home and we are introduced to MJ. I just want to say I don't particularly like the way MJ looks in this game. In contrast to her portrayal in the first Insomniac game, Mary Jane appears somewhat unnatural in this iteration. Additionally, she lacks the captivating charm and charisma that the previous actors have embodied. Well, maybe except from you.
Why do you keep hurting yourself?
Her portrayal, I feel, deviates from the authentic characterization of MJ depicted in the comics. In my opinion, she lacks the spunk and vitality that the character carries in the source material. Anyways, we're getting a bit off track, so on with the story. The player is tasked with tidying up Peter's house and visiting his former bedroom. There, he discovers a hole in the wall, a remnant of his youthful frustration. This very poignant moment is juxtaposed with a flashback to Aunt May, who advises Peter to prioritise mental well-being and to maintain balance. Upon watching this scene for the first time, it really resonated deeply with me.
A threat or a menace? Our phone lines are open. Menace. Definitely a big fat menace. Let me tell you something about this thing called superhero. He's neither super nor a hero. So what does that add up to? A fraud? An attention seeker? A bunch of nonsense.
What was that?
What was what?
Peter.
Oh, I thought I heard a rat in the wall.
Hey, what's wrong?
It's nothing. I was just...
Balance is a process, not a destination. I'm still working on that.
Following that heartwarming reunion between the past iterations of May and Peter, we are introduced to Insomniac's rendition of Harry Osborn. Harry had been severely ill throughout the entirety of the first game, afflicted by the Osborn curse. Consequently, he remained largely inactive, except for brief voice lines in minor side quests. Prior to the events of the game, Harry had undergone treatment by his father Norman, several years prior, but further details regarding that will be provided later. In my personal opinion, Harry's character development throughout the entire game is my favourite portrayal of his character. Although the details may not be fully revealed until later, I find his friendship with Peter and MJ to be particularly endearing, and their chemistry is just simply brilliant.
I can't believe it. You look great.
I feel great.
I have to get to work. Dinner tomorrow?
Coney Island? World time's sake?
It's a date.
That's new.
Yeah, it's a little skill she picked up when we were in Sicaria. You ready? Yeah. Where are we going?
You'll see. Come on. Try to keep up.
Following this bicycle ride and exposition on their friendship, Peter and Harry return to their former high school together. This sequence presents a flashback during which they reminisce about an incident involving the theft of a USB drive from the school. After their subtle escape from school, Norman Osborn arrives to tell Harry about his mother's untimely demise, to which Peter was there to witness.
Dad, I told you I'd call you when I got home.
It's your mother.
What happened?
Peter, would you excuse us for a moment?
Both Harry and Peter's losses of their parental figures in their lives motivate Harry to establish the Emily May Foundation, to provide a better future for society. This building will become of great significance later on, so it's important to remember that.
Pete, we're gonna heal the world.
Alright, well, that was pretty deep. Now that we've got the main story beats out the way, I think it's time to have a little bit of fun. Miles literally has fuck all to do in this narrative. He has this sudden bloodlust for Martin Lee, who killed his dad in the first game, which to me is just strange because he didn't mention Lee in his entire solo entry. I don't really know. It just feels a bit tacked on to me. It feels like the writers panicked last minute just to give Miles a bit of actual screen time. However, I really do like the nightmare sequences that Miles gets in this game. I've seen a lot of people complain about how obsessed the writers are with showing our characters' inner conflicts, but personally I disagree. This is probably the best way they could have done Miles' character, considering the majority of the game is the Peter Parker show for the most part. After Miles decides to have his little shit fit over Martin Lee, Peter goes back to the Emily May Foundation lab that Harry has built. This is when the player gets introduced to molecule puzzles. Now I just want to say, even after completing this game 3 times, I still have never completed the puzzles properly. Every time they come up, I skip them. But that's actually where I have an issue with them in the first place. Why did the developers even put them into the game if they're going to give you the option to skip them? To me, that's just bad game design. I just want to get back to the story and swinging around as Spider-Man. And then the Scorpion just jumps Kraven and injects him with psilocybin for some reason. I don't know, I wasn't really paying much attention here.
Have a nice trip.
Are you alright? Can you move?
And then we get to the infamous Coney Island section of the game. Miles is then introduced to Harry and says only a few words to him, remember that for later, and then the narrative comes to a grinding halt just so that the player can use the fairground minigames. This basically serves no purpose, other than to get Peter where he needs to be for his next fight. When I get to this part of the game, I want it to be over so quick. I just want to get back to the actual story, man. I mean seriously, look how long it lingers on it. Okay, I'm going to stop complaining now because this is where everything's about to kick off, so yeah, just keep watching. After Kraven's goons start attacking Coney Island, Peter fends them off and almost drops a group of trapped people into a fire, until...
Harry! Pete? Go!
So Harry's got the symbiote, and that's basically the reason why he's still alive. All the treatment that he'd been having the entire first game for his illness was entirely down to that. After Harry finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, they travel back to the lab and run some tests. And this is truly when the narrative kicks into gear properly. We then find out that Kraven is trying to go after Dr. Connors, and this is where Insomniac doubled down on the MJ missions. I don't really know why the screenwriters just want to try and make MJ-led missions a priority in some cases. The community already said that they didn't really like these missions in the first game, and then Insomniac were like, you don't like them? Well, guess what? We gave her a Glock. Like, why did you give her a gun? She's not Agent 47. Anyways, MJ fumbles and gets caught by Kraven, and then is intercepted by Peter and Harry. Hi, future Kieran here. I just realised in post that I forgot to mention that Harry's actually using the symbiote as an exosuit. So, yeah, that happened. And then Peter gets shanked, just like he's been aimlessly walking around in East Croydon for some reason, and dies. That was a joke. Harry actually gives Peter the symbiote to save his life. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, you'll know that this makes him a lot more powerful and also turns him into a fucking menace. After Harry and Peter go back to the Emily May Foundation to find a cure for Dr. Connors' disease, the Hunters attack the building. And everything that Harry had built up until this point is just completely destroyed. So not only is Harry now dying because he hasn't got the symbiote anymore, he's now having his life's ambition fall to shit. Yeah, Harry just gets fucked in this entire second act of the game. Peter then goes back to Dr. Connors' house, where he is then attacked by the Hunters again, and then he has to call in for backup. Wait, you're still here? And then we get probably one of the most exciting chase scenes in a video game, in my personal opinion. Miles and Peter chase down the Hunters and the Lizard, and then Miles begins to understand the change that is happening to Peter's personality.
It's good, Pete. I saved the tracker. Let's go, man, before he gets too far.
No. He's mine.
You sure? He's got big teeth.
So do I.
The symbiote takes Peter to bed, and then Insomniac decides to give us another MJ level. For fuck's sake. At this point, Peter has absolutely no control over the symbiote. It's now completely in control of him. And it takes out the hunters in a way more violent way than usual.
So long, gay boy!
MJ then chases the symbiote into an abandoned tunnel, and what we get here gave me goosebumps when I first played the game.
MJ.
Oh yes, that's so fucking cool.
Hey, buddy.
Bro literally committed domestic terrorism in one evening, and the first thing he says to Harry the night after is, "Hey buddy." I'm sorry, I just find that really funny. I just want to point out here that Yuri Lowenthal's voice acting is absolutely fucking incredible. He really encapsulates Peter's symbiote rage just so well.
Why don't you pop some more pills and say what you really feel?
Hey!
I saw your story.
I tried to tell you about that.
Yeah, but you didn't, did you?
I can't lose this job.
Your job is to write the truth.
I did.
The truth is, I'm the hero here, not you.
We then cut to Miles in what I can only describe as super jail, who got caught by the hunters during the tunnel sequence between Peter and MJ. And I'm not gonna lie, this kind of really pisses me off. Why does Miles always have to be away from Peter? He should be around for the majority of the time. This game's promotional title is Be Greater Together. And for 3/4 of the game, Miles isn't even around. You can just tell that Miles' story was just an afterthought, and it shouldn't really be this way. He's arguably the cooler Spider-Man with the better powers. This man can fly through the air like Vegeta and shoot lightning from his body. He can even go Super Saiyan as his ultimate. Anyways, as an attempt from Kraven to see who's the most powerful superhuman, Miles ends up fighting a gladiator battle to the death with Martin Lee. This is when we get a massive nightmare sequence from Miles. Where I will give this a little bit of credit though, this fight is probably my second favourite boss fight in the entire game. Dodging and parrying incoming attacks provides a good challenge, and there's a serious skill gap between this fight and everything the player has experienced up until now. After Miles lets Martin Lee go as a form of mercy, the symbiote and Kraven have a great showdown in another boss fight directly after the last. Miles then actually has to fight the symbiote to snap Peter out of it, and this is probably, in my opinion, the redeeming aspect of Miles' absence from the entire game. I think if Miles had been around more, this sequence would have hit more for me, but for what we get, I could say this is really good writing and very good staging actually as well.
All I want is to save you! I'm the hero! I don't get saved!
Now that's a fucking cool shot. Just look at it, look how fucking cool that is. Peter ends up ripping off the symbiote and returns back to his normal self. He reconciles with MJ and Peter until Peter arrives to talk to Harry. He tells Harry that the symbiote must be destroyed, and of course Harry gets really annoyed because that's literally the thing that's been keeping him alive this whole time. And this essentially is where we get to the beginning of the grand finale of the story. Harry fucking becomes Venom.
What a twist!
Not only this, but the player gets to play as Venom. Oh yeah, baby. Now this is some real peak stuff right here, I'm telling you. Now, when Insomniac announced that Venom was not going to be Eddie Brock, we kind of predicted that Harry was going to take his place, but never did we think that we'd actually get to mow down people as Venom. And I'm telling you, this shit is so satisfying. I was literally vibrating in my seat with excitement when I first played this part of the game. Insomniac just need to make a separate Venom game set in this universe. I'd fucking line up and camp till early hours to buy that shit. Kraven then has his final face-off, but this time it's with Venom. And this fight staging and spectacle is just something I've personally never seen before in a superhero game. This is just dumb, cool, and batshit comic book content that just speaks to my inner nerdy soul. And then Venom just fucking kills Kraven. Like, that's it. He's just written out of the story completely. Personally, I expected a better death from Craven, but I don't know, I might just be nitpicking there. But again, it just feels like the writers just went, you know what, we don't really know what else to do with him, so we'll just kill him off. Peter goes back to his home and finds MJ with Harry at the table, and then she finds out what the symbiote has done to Harry. And then we get one of the most confusing things ever. Venom makes an attack and then MJ is the one to react first before Peter? What? How does that make any sense? Peter literally can predict attacks and MJ was the one to call this shot? Again, I think I might be nitpicking here, but I noticed it and I was just sat there in eternal confusion. But my confusion was short-lived because Harry turns MJ into Scream. Now, if you don't know who Scream is, she originally took over Donna Diego's body in the comics on Earth 616. The way she died in that comic was real fucked up, if I'm honest. Eddie Brock led her to some trap, used a sonic emitter, paralysed her and then stabbed her in the head many times with a heated dagger. Peter has a boss fight with Scream, and this is by far my favourite boss fight in the entire game. At this point, symbiote creatures are everywhere in the city. Miles and Peter get overwhelmed, and the first person that comes to save them just happens to be Martin Lee. Miles and Lee enter Peter's consciousness to eradicate the remaining symbiote in his body, and they get a bit of closure on their relationship. But as I mentioned earlier, this isn't really that important because Miles' story was just completely forgotten about at the last minute, in my personal opinion. And then Peter becomes Cum Man. I'm not even kidding. His anti-venom abilities literally look like that he's throwing ectoplasm at the symbiote creatures. After Peter is fully healed, him and Miles come back together for one last time before the final fight against Venom. And then Miles gets a new suit. And I just want to say, I hate this fucking suit. It just looks so bad. I had to change it after the cutscene because it's just an amalgamation of shit. It's a walking Adidas advertisement. Peter and Miles then enter the symbiote hive and the final battle begins. This did present quite a challenge for me at the first time. I do remember dying a lot on my first playthrough, but it's the most drawn out fight out of all of them, and I'm not really saying that that's a bad thing. Insomniac don't really rush anything in this final battle, apart from Miles' suit. One thing I do actually want to mention, remember earlier when I asked you to think back to Miles having one conversation with Harry? Yeah, well, Peter gets temporarily incapacitated and is up to Miles to beat Harry. And Miles has absolutely nothing to say to Harry during this fight. They only spoke one time. I'm sorry, Miles' script is just god-awful in this game. It's just the one thing that I have a major problem with. Harry expresses that to end the symbiote, Peter is going to have to kill him. After 20-30 minutes of action, everything gets a lot quieter, and Harry dies. But then Insomniac realised, oh shit, we actually need Harry for the third game, and then he gets revived by Miles in the end anyway. So basically we just got a fake out death. Harry's now gone back into a coma, and Norman makes a slight tease to him being the Goblin for Spider-Man 3.
Get the G serum ready. ASAP.
MJ also creates a podcast. Collab with Joe Rogan in the next game. That would be quite topical, I think. Peter semi-retires and leaves the city to Miles for the time being, and that's it. That's Insomniac's Spider-Man 2. So, in conclusion to part 1, if it wasn't really for Miles' terrible script and minor issues with logic, this would get a much higher score. Despite issues that I have with the narrative, it's the best Spider-Man game ever made, that's abundantly obvious. And I think that it's fair to give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Now I know that that score might seem a bit high considering I just spent 15 minutes clowning on some of the story beats, but I'm a Spider-Man shill, so I'm biased. Everything else in this game, other than the irrelevant puzzles, the MJ missions and Miles' narrative being shit, I do enjoy everything else. Swinging around helping the city post New Game Plus is just a really nice pastime and something I have quite a lot of fun with. The music created by John Pisano is just absolutely fantastic as well.
Like this motherfucker don't miss.
But I think if I go on anymore, we're just going to be here forever. And I still have the second part to cover as well. So let's move the video on. Now, there are multiple ways to approach the suit cosmetics in this game from a critical standpoint, as a Spider-Man fan and as an aesthetics fan. So I'm going to try and do both, but again, my opinions are heavily biased, so what you think is cool doesn't necessarily mean that I will think the same, and that's okay. I'm going to talk about my personal top 5 suits for Miles and Peter. Every other suit that I don't mention doesn't necessarily mean that I hate them, they just didn't really make it to my personal top 5. So with that all out of the way, it's time to rank them. This suit first appeared in Amazing Fantasy issue 15. It's just a suit that you can't go wrong with. It obviously doesn't have much going on because it was the very first Spider-Man suit ever created, but it's just a classic look. It strikes a perfect balance between simplicity and iconic imagery, setting the standard for what a great superhero costume should be. One of the suit's strongest qualities is its clarity. The red and blue colour scheme is bold yet easy to follow, ensuring Spider-Man stands out. The black webbing pattern across the red portions adds depth and texture without overwhelming the design. The simple, expressive eye lenses give Spider-Man an instantly recognisable silhouette, allowing for dynamic emotions without needing detailed facial expressions. The spider emblem on the chest is minimal yet effective in reinforcing his identity. It visually communicates everything Spider-Man stands for, and that's why even decades later, it still remains one of the most well-suited superhero costumes ever created. The Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider suit was introduced in Web of Spider-Man issue 118. And it's just a perfect example of how a minimalist approach can still create an iconic and instantly recognisable look. If you don't know who Ben Reilly is, he is a clone of Peter Parker created in a lab by the Jackal. Believing himself to be an imitation rather than the real Spider-Man, he adopted the Scarlet Spider mantle, forging his own path while still carrying the weight of Peter's legacy. His costume reflects that familiar yet distinct design that we're used to, and it's just still bold. What makes this design so effective is its retro feel. The deep red bodysuit is sleek and striking with a sleeveless blue hoodie that adds a street level, almost DIY feel. This isn't really a high-tech suit, it's raw, personal, and it emphasises Ben's status as an outsider. The oversized, solid black spider emblem across the chest is a departure from Peter's traditional design, making a strong visual statement that Ben is really his own hero. Personally, I actually really like this design. I've seen a fair few people online trashing it, and I know a couple of people personally that don't actually really like it that much, but I wholeheartedly just disagree. It's still a suit that I love wearing when swinging around, it's just fucking great. The original Iron Spider armor debuted in Amazing Spider-Man issue 529. And it's a striking departure from Peter Parker's traditional suits while still embodying the essence of Spider-Man. Designed by Tony Stark, this suit represents a pivotal moment in Peter's journey, both as a hero and as a person struggling with the weight of greater responsibility. At this point in the comics, Peter had been taken under Tony Stark's wing leading up to Civil War, which, by the way, is probably one of the best Marvel comics ever written, and you should read it if you haven't. Seriously, you're robbing yourself of your own happiness if you still haven't read it. Seeing Peter's potential, Tony Stark gifted him the Iron Spider armor, an advanced, high-tech suit equipped with enhanced durability, built-in web shooters, and its most defining feature, 4 mechanical spider legs. The design is just fucking awesome, in my personal opinion. When Marvel Studios first announced that the Iron Spider was going to be used in Infinity War and Endgame, my inner child was like, oh yeah, Feige knows what he's doing. And then they gave us this.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
The Iron Spider armor is just a great reimagining of Spider-Man's look. The sleek red and gold color scheme immediately aligns Peter with Iron Man, symbolizing his growing connection to Tony. Also in the game, Peter's default spider arms ability are also changed on this suit to fit the comic aesthetic. It's just a small little detail, but it just makes all the difference when you're playing in this suit. It's now time for the top 2 suits. Both of these are my 2 main suits that I spend most of my time in New Game Plus, and in my opinion are my 2 favourite suits ever created for the character in general. Oh my fucking god, this is a thing of fucking beauty right here. This is probably the only redeeming quality about this movie. I know a lot of the Spider-Man shills out there are like, actually, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is objectively one of the best movies in the franchise. And every time I hear someone say that, I just want to take a nosedive from a 5-story building. This is one of the most faithful live-action adaptations of Spider-Man's classic comic book look ever made. There's no question. After the more experimental design of its predecessor, which looked like fucking shit by the way, this suit fully embraces the iconic elements that make Spider-Man's costume timeless while refining them with a cinematic level of detail. The colours are brighter and more vibrant, with a rich red and a deep blue that just feel ripped straight from the comics. The webbing pattern is bold and raised, giving the suit a defined texture that enhances its visibility on screen. Not only in the film, but also in the game too. Insomniac actually released a patch with the suit. Originally, it didn't actually have the texture and the overall shininess that you would expect, so Insomniac changed it. I mean, I thought it looked good before, but after the patch, it actually got better. The larger, more expressive white lenses with black outlines are directly inspired by the comics. In particular, Mark Bagley's Ultimate Spider-Man run. What makes this suit so effective is its balance of classic and modern elements. It doesn't overcomplicate the design with unnecessary details, nor does it try to reinvent what already works. However, I do have one very minor problem, and it's entirely game related. When Peter uses his spider arms abilities when wearing this suit in game, it looks completely out of place. Obviously, I know that's a very small thing, but it was just something that I wanted to mention, and I wouldn't say it bothered me too much, but like, yeah, it just looks a bit weird. But there is one more suit that you could say is far superior than any other in the game. This is just a masterpiece in design. Every single part of this suit is bona fide genius. The Superior Spider-Man suit was introduced in Superior Spider-Man Issue 1, and is a tactical reinvention of the classic costume, designed to reflect the darker and more calculated approach of its wearer, Otto Octavius. Yes, Dr. Octopus himself is a wearer of the Spider-Man mantle. This entire storyline is it's just genius. It follows one of the most shocking status quo changes in Spider-Man history. In a last-ditch effort to cheat death, Dr. Octopus successfully swaps minds with Peter Parker, leaving Peter trapped in Otto's dying body while Otto takes full control of Peter's body and powers. Although Peter fights to reclaim his mind, he ultimately fails, and Otto leaves him to fucking die. I absolutely love when comic books do shit like this. It deviates from the normal practice of comic book storytelling. I know that there are other crazier stories within this genre, but this one in particular is just fucking nuts. However, rather than continuing his life as a villain, Otto decides to honour Peter's legacy in his own way, by becoming a better Spider-Man. He sees Peter's approach as too reckless and inefficient, so he establishes himself as the superior Spider-Man. Using his genius intellect and ruthless efficiency to fight crime on his own, his methods are more brutal, his strategies more calculated, and his sense of justice is far more authoritarian. Unlike Peter Parker's traditional suit, this version exudes a sense of control, power, and efficiency, perfectly mirroring the unique era in which it was introduced. The Superior suit is a striking visual representation of Otto's more aggressive, no-nonsense approach to heroism. The classic red and blue is replaced with a sleek black and red colour scheme, reinforcing the idea that this is a darker, more intimidating version of Spider-Man. The eyes are sharper and more angular, mirroring Otto's intense personality. And the spider emblem is way more pronounced, stretching across his chest in just an imposing way. A key addition to this suit is the inclusion of the mechanical spider legs that extend from the back, similar to the Iron Spider suit. These limbs allow Otto to fight more strategically, giving him extra reach, agility, and offensive capabilities that Peter rarely utilised. It also includes retractable claws and heads-up display, allowing Otto to analyse threats in a more systematic way. What makes it so effective is that it's not just a visual change, it's a storytelling device. Every element of the design reflects Otto's philosophy as Spider-Man, making it one of the most meaningful redesigns in the character's history. Even after Peter Parker eventually reclaims his body, the Superior Spider-Man suit remains an iconic representation of one of the most ambitious and daring Spider-Man stories ever told. Alright, now it's time for Miles' suits, and the vast majority of them are actually original designs for the game, and aren't actually linked to any overarching comic or movie narrative. So it's time to start a lightning round, baby! The Morales 2020 is a futuristic take on the character's classic look. The sleek black and red colour scheme stays true to Miles' signature aesthetic, but the cyberpunk-inspired design elevates it to something truly unique. The visor and neon accents give it a high-tech, almost Tron-like feel, making it stand out among his other suits. The hoodie and jacket combo add a stylish urban edge, perfectly fitting Miles' personality. It's a fantastic suit that blends modern tech with Spider-Man's iconic flair, making it one of the most visually striking outfits in the game. The classic suit is a perfect adaptation of Miles' original comic book look, first introduced in Ultimate Fallout issue 4. This issue marked Miles' debut as Spider-Man after Peter Parker's death in the Ultimate Universe. The suit's black and red colour scheme is sleek, modern, and instantly recognisable, setting Miles apart from Peter's traditional blue and red. In the game, the suit is beautifully rendered, with a very smooth, form-fitting design that highlights its comic-accurate details. The bold red spider emblem, striking web patterns, and vibrant contrast make it one of the best representations of Miles' signature look, embodying both his legacy and individuality as Spider-Man. The family business suit is a stylish take on Miles' classic look, adding a modern, tactical edge. The deep black bodysuit is accented by striking red highlights with a refined, almost armoured texture that gives it a high-tech feel. The gauntlets and boots enhance the suit's sleek silhouette, while the sharp, angular design of the spider emblem adds an aggressive touch. It's a perfect blend of practicality and flair, making Miles look like he's a battle-ready hero while staying true to his signature style. This suit is a standout for players who want something both classic and cutting-edge. The Advanced Tech suit is a futuristic and high-tech evolution of Miles' traditional look. Black base is complemented by red circuitry-like patterns that pulse with energy, giving the suit an almost digital aesthetic. The glowing red spider emblem and illuminated accents make it feel like a next-gen upgrade, emphasizing Miles' connection to technology and innovation. The streamlined design and armoured textures add to its modern appeal, making it feel like a suit built for high-speed, high-stakes battles. It's a perfect choice for players who want a stylish yet powerful look that pushes Miles' design into the future. This is by far the best Miles suit in this game. The 10th anniversary suit is a modern redesign that celebrates a decade of Miles Morales as Spider-Man. With a primarily black hoodie accented by pink highlights, it retains the essence of his classic look while introducing a more comfortable and stylish aesthetic. The spider emblem is one of the most unique parts of the whole suit, sprawling its legs to join up in the middle. It's just so cool. The streamlined helmet with its pink eyes add an extra layer of futuristic appeal. This suit is just a fantastic tribute to Miles' journey, bleeding nostalgia with innovation for a look that just feels like it's been nurtured by its designers. Also, Insomniac, why the fuck did you not put the Into the Spider-Verse Leap of Faith suit into the game? You had 2 chances to make it happen, and you decided that this was more of a priority? I'm sorry, not having this suit for Miles in game is a massively missed opportunity. It better be in the 3rd game or there's going to be societal unrest. So, to conclude the last part of the video, Spider-Man, as you can tell, is a massive part of my life, and as I said in the beginning, I've loved this character ever since I was a child. Despite the issues I have with the script, pacing, and small other aspects, I still love this game, and I will continue to replay it until we get the final chapter in this trilogy. That's not the only 3rd entry we're waiting for either, Sony, but I just want to say thank you for your time. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, it would mean a lot to me. Stay tuned for more because I've actually got quite a lot planned for the future. But for now, I'm going to leave you with a message. Thanks for watching.
First of all, people hate spiders, so you can't call a hero Spider-Man. You want him to be a teenager? Teenagers can only be sidekicks. And you want him to have personal problems. Stan, don't you know what a superhero is? They don't have personal problems. Well, I left the office disappointed, but obviously a much wiser man. And I couldn't get Spider-Man out of my system. So we were about to kill a magazine. I think it was called Amazing Fantasy. It wasn't selling well, and we were sending the last issue to press. When you do the last issue of a magazine, nobody cares what you put in it because the book is dying. Just to get it out of my system, I put Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy, featured him on the cover, forgot about it. A month later, all the sales figures came in. My publisher came racing into my office. Stan, you remember that character we both loved so much, Spider-Man? He said, let's do him as a series. Now, why am I telling you this? Besides the fact that I have to kill a little time. If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it.